Let's be honest. Most people live in a constant state of mental static, always reacting, always scrolling, always waiting for the next thing to go wrong. One message ruins their mood. One unexpected delay throws off the whole day. One small misunderstanding becomes a full-blown emotional spiral. But every now and then, you meet someone who doesn't flinch. When chaos hits, they don't panic. When people snap, they don't take the bait. And when life feels overwhelming, they breathe and move forward, calmly. You know what that is? It's not luck. It's not a personality trait. It's trained calm. And the Stoics practiced it like a martial art. So today, I want to show you what they knew and how you can stay centered when the world around you spins out. Picture this. You're rushing out the door. You're late. You spill coffee on your shirt. The train's delayed. Your phone's on 6%. You're hungry, tired, overstimulated. And then someone bumps into you without apologizing. What happens next? For most people, that moment triggers an explosion. Anger, blame, frustration, overreaction. But here's the deeper problem. It's not just the bump. It's everything that built up before it. Most people carry unprocessed stress in their nervous system, so the smallest trigger lights the biggest fire. That's what the Stoics saw so clearly. They knew the enemy wasn't just what happens to you, it's how ready you are to meet it. And here's the truth. If you don't train calm on the small days, you won't have it on the big ones. At the heart of Stoicism is this simple but life-changing distinction. We control our thoughts and actions. Everything else? Not up to us. You can't control the weather. You can't control other people's moods. You can't control whether the Wi-Fi crashes or your meeting gets canceled. But you can control one thing, always: how you respond. And that's where your freedom lives. You don't have to pretend everything's fine. You just have to stop giving chaos permission to steer the wheel. The Stoics trained themselves to stay calm, not by avoiding the world, but by rooting themselves in what's unshakable: their values, their choices, their clarity. Let's talk about Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of armies, ruler of millions. His reign wasn't peaceful. It was one disaster after another: war, plague, rebellion, loss. But despite it all, he wrote pages and pages of personal reflections, many in the middle of the night, not for fame, not for others, but to steady himself. In one passage, he wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This wasn't abstract. He was dealing with death, betrayal, and unbearable responsibility. But instead of reacting blindly, he questioned his thoughts. He rewrote the story in real time. And that practice, that inner work, it's what allowed him to stay steady in the storm, not because the world was calm, but because he was. Let me ask you something. How many times have you regretted the way you reacted to something? You said too much. You snapped. You panicked. You shut down. And afterward, you felt worse. Here's what most people don't realize. Every time you react impulsively, you lose a piece of yourself. You let the moment, the frustration, the fear, someone else's behavior define you. And when that becomes a habit, you start living in survival mode, always on edge, always bracing for impact, always mistaking emotional noise for urgent truth. That's why the Stoics practice daily reflection, to interrupt those habits, to make space between the feeling and the response. Because in that space, you choose who you want to be. Here's the big misunderstanding. People think stillness means doing nothing. But in Stoicism, stillness is active. It's alive. It's full of awareness. Stillness is seeing what's happening without being overwhelmed by it, noticing emotion without obeying it, holding your ground while everything around you shakes. The Stoics weren't passive. They were warriors of the mind. They moved with purpose, not panic. They practiced a kind of mental aikido, redirecting the energy of events without absorbing it. That kind of clarity, it doesn't come from force. It comes from knowing where you stand. The ability to remain calm is not about perfection, it's about preparation. Have you ever been in a room with someone who just radiates calm? They don't interrupt. They don't rush to speak. They aren't trying to prove anything, and yet everyone listens when they talk. That's not charisma. That's emotional discipline. They've trained themselves to respond instead of react, to slow down instead of speed up, to observe before deciding. This is exactly what the Stoics did. They knew that silence could be louder than shouting, that pausing could be stronger than pushing. And the result? They became anchors in a world full of waves. Here's something simple you can do next time things feel like too much. Before you say anything, before you act, before you jump to conclusions, take one full breath. In through your nose, out through your mouth. It sounds too simple, but it's powerful. Because in that one breath, you interrupt the chain. You break the autopilot, you reclaim your awareness. That's not weakness, that's control. Even Marcus Aurelius in his most chaotic days reminded himself, now is the time to live as nature intended. Be calm, be just, be free. It's in the breath that most people forget, and the Stoics remembered. Let's not pretend the world is going to get quieter. News, arguments, algorithms, deadlines, all of it is designed to keep you reacting. But here's your advantage. You don't need the world to calm down. You just need to stop letting it pull you out of your center. Because once you learn to hold your calm, you stop being a passenger in your own life. And something amazing happens. People around you notice. They begin to lean on your steadiness. You become the quiet one who somehow holds the whole room together. You don't need to be loud to be strong. You don't need to have all the answers to be steady. You don't need to control everything to feel peace. You just need to return over and over to what is in your control, your breath, your words, your focus, your response. That's Stoicism. That's calm. That's real power. The next time you feel that spike, the panic, the irritation, the urge to react, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the weight, the stillness beneath you. Feel your breath and remind yourself, I've trained for this. I know how to be still. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs you, calm, clear, and ready.